Madison is paralyzed by shocking visions of grisly murders, and her torment worsens as she discovers that these waking dreams are in fact terrifying realities. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Burns Views, and today we were taking a look at the new James Wan movie, Malignant. Now, I've always been a fan of James Wan. I enjoyed Saw. I enjoyed some of the Conjuring movies. I've never seen Insidious or its sequels. I think Fast 7 is pretty decent considering the franchise has taken a nosedive since that time. Now, going into this movie, I didn't really know what to expect. The trailers were kind of bare bones, and honestly, I want to go in kind of blind because usually trailers give too much away. So let's waste no time. Let's go straight into the pros. The third act of this movie is absolutely bonkers, all right? It is over the top, crazy, insane. In fact, the whole movie is a bit bonkers and over the top. And once you adjust to that type of mentality, once you get in that mindset of you're not actually watching something like Sinister or Hereditary or The Night House, which I think is a much better film because it takes itself way more seriously, you have to realize this is more of like an action CGI fest. And it's very campy, and that's something you have to keep in mind going into it, because I started out watching this movie going, I kind of hate it, and by the time you get to that third act, man, it really does make that turn. It really does. It's like watching Get Out when you get to that third act, and you're like, oh, okay, so we're really going for it. Cool. So I think that's the biggest selling point. I think this movie is going to be one of those horror movies that people go, yeah, but how about that ending? And that's probably the strongest thing that I could say for Malignant, because, yeah, I have a lot that's wrong with this movie, too. I have a lot of issues with this movie. For one, it's poorly directed, and I know people who love James Wan are gonna fanboy over this movie and go, oh my god, I love James Wan. Look, I like James Wan, too. But the entire time, in the first half of this movie, when we don't get to that third act, the camera is constantly swinging around, and it's going back and forth and in your face and out of your face and switching around, and the walls are changing constantly. And just because you have a big budget, just because you have the budget to do a giant CGI fest, doesn't necessarily mean that you should. I felt like I was at Universal Studios during Halloween time at like an attraction, like a theme park, like a haunted walk-through ride type of deal with lots of jump scares. And, you know, I guess the best way to put it is that there's a reason why roller coasters only last about 90 seconds, because if they lasted 2 hours, it would be this movie. So I love James Wan, but I feel like they were moving the camera way too much in and out and in and out and 360s and 180s and upside down and in. I want to throw up. I kept hitting pause. I watched it at home on HBO Max. I want to hit pause, and I feel like that's the biggest detractor from this movie. As far as the acting, it's pretty average. It kind of felt like there's not a lot of big stars in it. It kind of felt like a soap opera. It didn't really seem to have any strong acting throughout. And like I said, it really does hit that camp. There are moments in this movie that felt like the same feeling I got when I go to like a rock concert, and it's like rock and roll. Like there's like head-banging moments in this movie, and the rock music kicks in, and I'm like, what? So I think the movie is very self-aware of what it wants to be. It feels like several genres all layered in. You know what? Not layered, thrown in. And it's a bit messy. It's definitely going to be the movie of the season where everybody goes, don't spoil the ending. And rightfully so. The ending, the twist, it's a doozy. I'll give you that. But the acting is pretty subpar. The story is, I guess, original. And I don't know, I had a hard time getting through this movie. I am going to rewatch it at a certain point, but as a quick reaction, I'm trying to get this video out very quickly because it got to me very late in the game, and I'm trying to churn it out pretty quickly. But overall, guys, I think this movie is worth seeing on HBO Max. I wouldn't pay top dollar to go see it in theaters. Like I said, the visuals alone of them throwing you around like a rag doll might make some people kind of nauseous. I know that I found it a little bit distracting and sometimes beautiful, but it never felt suspenseful or terrifying. Like I said, I really got vibes of like The Burbs with Tom Hanks from the 80s. I never felt like I was afraid or suspenseful or anything like that. And at times felt like a soap opera. Like I said, those musical cues that kind of go off, I'm like, all right, that's a little much. I know they just dropped like a big reveal, but I'm like, what are we doing? I also think they need to send a check to the Pixies, because if you listen to the score, they're very clearly trying to rip off Where Is My Mind. It looks like they do 1, 2, 3 notes, and then it shifts into like a different type of thing. But I'm like, that's Where Is My Mind by the Pixies, which is used now in every single movie since Fight Club. So yeah, direction, not great. Acting, not great. The story, I think, was original enough, and I really enjoyed the story elements to it. But because the direction was so, like, all over the place and constantly zipping out and sliding in and sliding out, it really just took me out of it, and I found it to be incredibly distracting. So I will give this movie all the points for creativity, having a good twist, and having a really stellar third act. But the acting and direction really kind of pulled me out of it, and that's why I'm going to give this movie a C-. It's interesting, and I would recommend it if you can check it out on HBO Max. I would definitely give it a fun watch. You know, it kind of reminds me of like something like Beaver Zombies or Wolf Cop. You know, it's not good in the traditional sense of a horror movie. It's fun to watch with your friends on how absurd some of the scenes can be. But for those of you who get motion sickness, maybe skip this one. Until next time, guys, thank you so much for watching. I have been John here on Birds Views. Thank you so much for watching. We have a brand new in-depth essay for the Candyman series. It's basically chronologically in the entire series from 1985 all the way to now, starting with the book all the way up to the new one. So be sure to check that out. And until next time, guys, I will see you next time.